You just booked a flight for €9. €9. Warsaw to London. That's less than a Starbucks coffee. Actually, it's less than a bad Starbucks coffee. You're feeling pretty smug about it. Then you get to the airport. That'll be €55 for your carry-on bag. Another 45 for a checked bag. Want to sit next to the window? €20. Didn't print your boarding pass at home. €10? Fine. Want water on the plane? $3.50. By the time that hot pink aircraft pushes back from the gate, your €9 flight has quietly become €142. Your first thought is probably, I've been scammed. Your second thought, how is this legal? But here's the thing that should really blow your mind. Wizz Air isn't struggling. They aren't losing money on some crazy bet. They carried 62 million passengers last year and made over €5 billion in revenue. $5 billion from an airline that sells tickets for less than a sandwich. So how does a company that practically gives away seats actually turn a profit? The answer is way more fascinating than you think, and it completely changes how you'll look at budget airlines forever. Hi, and welcome back to the channel where I break down business models so you don't have to. Today we're diving into Wizz Air, Central and Eastern Europe's largest low-cost carrier. And to understand how they make money, we're going to follow our good friend Sophia on her very first Wizz Air experience and calculate every single euro along the way. Because Wizz Air is publicly listed on the London Stock Exchange, we actually have real numbers to work with. And trust me, they tell a wild story. Let's start with Sophia. She's 24, she lives in Budapest, and she wants to visit her friend in London for a long weekend. She opens her phone, searches for flights, and there it is. Wizz Air, Budapest to London Luton, €9. She books it before she can think too hard about it. Smart Sophia. Also kind of a trap, Sophia? But we'll get there. First though, let's talk about who actually owns Wizz Air and how this thing came to exist. Because the origin story here is genuinely interesting. Wizz Air Holdings is publicly listed on the London Stock Exchange, part of the FTSE 250, backed by major institutional investors including Indigo Partners, an American private equity firm that basically specializes in ultra-low-cost airlines. They also back Frontier in the US and Volaris in Mexico. But the real story starts with one man, CEO and founder József Váradi. Váradi is a Hungarian businessman who, back in 2001, was randomly called at 11 at night while bowling with colleagues and asked if he wanted to become the CEO of Malev Hungarian Airlines, Hungary's struggling state-owned carrier. He was, by his own admission, half drunk at the time. He said he didn't know. By 8 the next morning, he'd said yes. Classic. He spent 2 years trying to turn Malev around, cut their losses by 80%, and then in 2003, the Hungarian government unceremoniously removed him from the role. Most people go home and feel sorry for themselves. Váradi looked at a map of Central and Eastern Europe and saw something. 8 countries were about to join the European Union in May 2004. Open skies, freedom of movement. Millions of people who had never been able to afford flying were suddenly going to want to fly, and almost nobody was positioned to serve them cheaply. He co-founded Wizz Air in September 2003. The first ever Wizz Air flight took off on May 19, 2004 from Katowice, Poland, which Váradi himself described as literally in the middle of nowhere, to London Luton. And he deliberately launched from Poland, not Hungary, because he was worried the Hungarian government might try to kill the airline before it got started, since it was going to eat directly into Malev's business. Smart move. Within a few years, Wizz Air had cut Malev's market share by 1/3. By 2012, Malev was bankrupt. Wizz Air was just getting warmed up. Okay, back to Sophia. She's booked her €9 flight. Now comes the fascinating part. Because when Wizz Air collects that €9 from Sophia, here's what's left after payment processing fees take their roughly 3% cut, about €8.73. That's it. That's what Wizz Air has to work with from the base ticket. And a flight from Budapest to London costs considerably more than €8.73 to operate. So clearly, the €9 ticket isn't actually the product. It's the hook. The real product is everything else. And this is where Wizz Air's entire business model lives. Sophia needs to bring a bag. She's going for a long weekend, that's 34 euros. She wants a window seat, 20 euros. She accidentally clicks travel insurance because the checkout flow is, let's say, enthusiastically designed to make you do that. Another 12 euros. Before she's even left her apartment, Sophia has spent 75 euros on a 9 euro flight. And here's the thing, Wizz Air is counting on exactly that. In their financial year 2024, ancillary revenue came to around 28 euros per passenger on average. That's roughly 40% of their total revenue coming from bags, seats, insurance, priority boarding, in-flight food and drink, car hire commissions, hotel partnerships, and whatever else they can attach to your booking before you hit confirm. So let's run the numbers on Sophia's journey. Wizz Air has collected 75 euros from her. Now they have to actually fly her to London, and this is where the cost obsession kicks in. Because if Ryanair is the airline industry's monk of self-denial, Wizz Air is at least in the same monastery. Every cost is scrutinized, every efficiency is chased. Let's go through how Wizz Air spends that 75 euros. The single biggest expense for any airline is fuel. It typically accounts for 25 to 30% of total costs. Wizz Air's weapon against fuel cost is their fleet. They fly almost exclusively Airbus A321neo aircraft, which burns roughly 20% less fuel than the older generation of the same plane. That difference, multiplied across 200-plus aircraft flying multiple times a day, is an enormous amount of money saved annually. Budapest to London is about 1,500 kilometers. On a full A321neo with around 238 seats and a load factor above 90%, the fuel cost allocated to Sophia's seat is roughly 18 euros. Second big cost, the aircraft itself. Wizz Air doesn't own most of its planes. They lease them, which means regular lease payments go out the door, whether the plane is flying or sitting on the ground. This is why aircraft utilization is everything. The more flights you can squeeze out of a single plane in a single day, the more that fixed lease cost gets spread across more passengers. And Wizz Air is ruthless about this. Their average aircraft turnaround, the time between one flight landing and the next one taking off with the same plane, is around 25 minutes. That is fast. That means a single A321neo can do 4 or 5 rotations in a day. More rotations, more revenue, same lease cost. The lease cost allocated to Sophia's seat on this flight is roughly 10 euros. Third cost, airports. And this is one of Wizz Air's cleverest tricks. Look at which airports they fly into. London Luton, not Heathrow. Katowice, not Warsaw. Bergamo, not Milan. These secondary airports are significantly cheaper to operate from. And here's the bonus. These airports, desperate for traffic, often offer airlines like Wizz Air incentive deals. Fly X number of passengers through us per year, and we'll discount your fees. So Wizz Air gets a cheap airport and sometimes gets paid extra to use it. Airport and handling costs for Sophia's seat, around 12 euros. Fourth cost, crew. Pilots, cabin crew, training, rostering. Wizz Air keeps these costs lean. Cabin crew in certain markets are sometimes employed through third-party agencies rather than directly by the airline, which reduces per-employee costs. This has been controversial. There have been strikes, regulatory complaints, and reports of crew feeling pressured to fly when exhausted. Wizz Air disputes many of these claims. But it's fair to say that their low labor cost is not unrelated to aggressive employment structures. Labor for Sophia's flight, around 10 euros per seat. And then there's everything else. Maintenance, insurance, IT systems, customer service, administration. Because Wizz Air flies only one aircraft type, maintenance is dramatically simpler than for airlines with mixed fleets. Engineers train on one platform. Spare parts stock is streamlined. Predictability saves money. These costs add up to roughly another 15 euros per passenger. So let's add it all up. Fuel, 18 euros. Aircraft lease, 10 euros. Airports, 12 euros. Crew, 10 euros. Everything else, 15 euros. Total cost to get Sophia from Budapest to London, about 65 euros. Wizz Air collected 75 euros from her. That's a margin of 10 euros, or roughly 13%. In an industry where most airlines dream of single-digit profit margins, that's actually decent. But wait, it gets better, because 75 euros assumed Sophia packed light and only added one bag and one seat selection. What if she'd added a checked bag too? What if she'd bought priority boarding? What if she'd had a glass of wine on the flight? Every single one of those additions is nearly pure margin for Wizz Air. The plane is flying regardless. The crew is on board regardless. The incremental cost of Sophia buying a €4 Pringles tube at 30,000 feet is basically zero. The revenue is €4. That's the beauty of ancillary. Once the plane is in the air, everything Sophia spends is almost entirely profit. Now let's talk about something Wizz Air really doesn't want you overthinking: the bag fees. Because the bag fee isn't just a revenue line, it's a behavior modification tool. When you charge €34 for a cabin bag, a certain percentage of passengers will decide to pack lighter and not bring a bag at all. Fewer bags in the overhead bins means faster boarding. Faster boarding means quicker turnarounds. Quicker turnarounds mean more flights per day per aircraft. More flights per day means more revenue. So the bag fee pays Wizz Air twice. Once when you pay it, and once when it incentivizes enough passengers not to pay it and speeds up the whole operation. That is not an accident. That is engineering. Let's also talk about the Wizz Discount Club. For around €30 a year, you get access to lower fares and reduced bag fees. Over 1 million people have signed up. On the surface, it looks like Wizz Air is handing out discounts. In reality, it's a subscription revenue stream that costs almost nothing to run. It locks passengers into booking directly with Wizz Air, rather than through comparison sites that charge the airline a commission. And it creates habitual customers who fly Wizz Air more often because they feel like they're getting a deal. They might be getting a slightly smaller fee on the bag. Wizz Air is getting a loyal, high-frequency customer. Who's really winning that deal? And then there's the pricing algorithm. Wizz Air's fares are not fixed. They move constantly, based on how many seats are left, how far out you're booking, what day of the week it is, and what demand looks like on that route. Book 8 weeks in advance on a Tuesday, €9. Book 48 hours before departure on a bank holiday Friday. Suddenly it's €130. Same seat, same plane, same flight. The algorithm's job is to sell every single seat at the maximum price the market will bear at that specific moment. An empty seat is the airline's worst nightmare. It flew there anyway. It cost nearly the same in fuel, crew, and airport fees. And it generated zero revenue. So the algorithm drops prices to whatever it takes to fill that seat, because even €5 of revenue beats zero. Load factor, the percentage of seats that are actually filled on a given flight, is one of the most important numbers in aviation. Wizz Air consistently achieves load factors above 90%. That means on a 238-seat A, 321 Neo, fewer than 24 seats are flying empty. Combine that with the fast turnaround times and high daily utilization, and each aircraft is effectively a revenue machine running almost continuously, from dawn to late at night. Now, let's talk about where things have gone wrong, because Wizz Air's path hasn't been straight. In the financial year ending March 2023, they posted a net loss of over €500 million. Two massive things hit them simultaneously, and neither was their fault. First, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Wizz Air had significant operations in Ukraine and across Eastern Europe. Routes were canceled, aircraft stranded in Kyiv, and the airline had to rapidly redeploy capacity across its network. That disruption cost hundreds of millions in lost revenue. Second, the Pratt & Whitney engine crisis. A manufacturing defect in the geared turbofan engines used by A320neo family aircraft triggered a global inspection and replacement program. At one point, Wizz Air had 40 of its own aircraft grounded simultaneously. An airline with 40 planes sitting idle is an airline bleeding cash with nothing to show for it. They pushed through it, negotiated compensation from the engine manufacturer, and returned to profitability in the following financial year, posting a net profit of €472 million in fiscal year 2024. That's a swing of nearly €900 million in 12 months. The underlying model worked, it just needed the chaos to stop. There's also the competition problem. Wizz Air's entire identity is built on being the cheapest. But Ryanair exists, and Ryanair has been playing this game since before Wizz Air was founded. They're bigger, they have more routes, and their CEO Michael O'Leary has made an almost personal hobby of being aggressively cheap. As of early 2026, reports are already describing Wizz Air and Ryanair as locked in a battle for European domination, particularly in the Central and Eastern European markets that Wizz Air has always considered its home turf. When two ultra-low-cost airlines start competing on the same routes, fares go even lower, and margins get squeezed for both of them. This is good for passengers and genuinely stressful for airline finance teams. Then there's T. Customer satisfaction issue. Wizz Air consistently ranks near the bottom of European airline satisfaction surveys. Complaints about cancellations, delays, lost bags, and customer service are a recurring theme. And Wizz Air doesn't seem particularly bothered by this, for the same reason Ryanair isn't bothered. Their customers are not paying for comfort or service. They are paying for the price. As long as Wizz Air can credibly claim to be the cheapest way to get from A to B, a certain large segment of the population will book them anyway, hold their breath, and hope for the best. Sophia landed safely. Her bag arrived. She's annoyed about the €3.50 bottle of water. She'll probably book Wizz Air again next time she wants to go to London. That's the bet. So, what does this all mean? Wizz Air makes money the same way every ultra-low-cost carrier makes money, just executed with particular aggression in a specific geography. You sell the seat for almost nothing. You price every possible add-on at exactly the point where enough people pay it that you maximize total revenue per passenger. You fly one type of aircraft to keep costs predictable. You land at cheap secondary airports. You turn your planes around faster than anyone else. You fill almost every seat through dynamic pricing, and you run the whole thing on the leanest possible cost base, even when that creates friction with staff and customers. The economics are merciless, and when they're working, genuinely impressive. Sophia spent €142 total by the time she landed, including that water and a cheese toastie she didn't really want but felt compelled to buy because it was there. She thought she booked a €9 flight. She didn't. She booked a €9 entry point into a precisely engineered system designed to extract the optimal amount of money from her at every single step. And here's the really wild part. She'll probably do it again. Because that toastie aside, she got to London for less than a train ticket from Budapest to Vienna. And that €9 number will stick in her brain long after the bag fee has faded from memory. That's not an accident either. That's the whole point. The €9 isn't the price. It's the advertisement. And it works on all of us. How does Wizz Air even make money? By making sure that by the time you figure it out, you've already landed.